Okay, so now we're into section 2, which is the 10 steps to the home buying process. All right. I think, like I said earlier, this is the meat of the seminar, and if you just read this chapter 5, you'll get a lot more insight than most home buyers ever have, even repeat home buyers, because there's a lot of good stuff in here and a lot of great secrets that we reveal. And so, but the first one that we have to get over, and we talked a little bit about that whole thing, and we have to get through, is to make the decision to buy a home. Now, step 1 is to decide. What we're looking for on the decision is for you to get ready, willing, and able. That's the whole idea, is not just until you're ready, willing, and able, then you're not going to make that decision to buy a home. So you make a decision, make it a goal, write it down, and then don't ever look back. Think of your first dream home. I thought of a dream home when I was growing up, of a dream home that would be the home that I'm living in now. I live in what you would consider a dream home, overlooking a lake in Austin, and with 3 acres and a pool and a sport court. But that all started with my first dream home, which was my first little home in Alaska. And now, like I said before, I wished I'd kept that little home in Alaska. And there's a lot of homes along the way I bought and sold that I wished I've kept them. I've actually bought and sold over 100 homes. And it's because I'm an investor. I buy, sell, flip over the years, and just if I wished I'd kept them. So really, I tell people, if you just keep one home, that'll make your retirement easy. If you buy 10 homes over the course of a lifetime and start paying them off, it could make you rather wealthy. So real estate is about relationships once again, and what we want to do is make sure that we're not talking to the naysayers. And that can happen, especially in the military. I know that I've heard this from Colonel James Durham, that the military guys will talk to each other, well, why would you want to buy a house? And then all of a sudden that dream has just disappeared for that guy or that gal, because they're like, you know, I guess that was a bad idea. Really, in the long run, it was probably a pretty good idea. But remember, buying a home is a medium to long-term investment. It's not something that you buy for a year and then expect to turn around and sell it, because the closing costs going in and closing costs going out are going to be too expensive. You're looking at a 2 to 5 year hold. So if you're going to move in a year and not keep that house as a long-term investment property or rental property, then it's probably best to rent. So you want to take a look at what your particular time frame is. Okay, so decide, commit, make it a goal, then take some action, align with the right professionals, stay away from the naysayers, and then never give up. I've worked with people for 3 years to buy their first home. I worked with this lady who had her and her 3 kids wanted to buy a home, but she was still in a situation where her husband, she was going through a divorce, and she didn't want to buy a home while she was going through that. But we got her set up, we got her credit in good shape, and it took me 3 years to buy that home, to get that home. I have dealt with people that gave up and said they didn't want, but I can tell you that I've never dealt with a home buyer who decided that they wanted to buy a home, and if they were willing to persist through it, that they weren't able to do it. So it may take time, or it could be as quick as I've also shown a client the first home and they bought that one. And I've shown as many as 20 or 30 homes, or even more than that, to a client. It's all about you. Real estate is all about you. It's not about me. Where I'll provide a service as real estate brokers. Some transactions are easier than others. It's kind of like a doctor or a CPA or a lawyer. Some cases are easier than others. So, but once again, it's all about you. The next thing you want to do is make a plan, step 2. And making a plan really talks about doing a self-analysis. You really got to see where you're at in your life and the whole lifestyle. Do a self-analysis, and also look at what things that you like and don't like. I mean, and when it comes to your lifestyle, we were just talking at the break about you know, the fact that the gentleman Steve back there didn't like living in a townhome because you can't choose your neighbors and they play their bass too loud. So he preferred a single-family home. We want to make sure that one of the most valuable things that you're going to hear for setting yourself up to purchasing a home, as far as what it has to do with you, is this point right here, is a needs and wants list. When you get ready to purchase a home or start purchasing, the idea of take a sheet of paper out and put needs and wants. Okay? What we're looking for here is that needs are things that you absolutely have to have in a house. I need 3 bedrooms, I need 2 baths, I need to be this, whatever it may be. I want a large yard, I want a small yard, I don't want to take care of a large yard. Okay, whatever it is, the absolute things that you would really need to have in a home, okay? The wants are things that we use this line, it would be nice to have. It'd be nice to have a large yard. It'd be nice to have a home with lots of trees around it. It'd be nice to be on a home that is not on a busy street, or it'd be nice to have one on a cul-de-sac. And this needs and wants list is really neat, because sometimes if you're married, you're buying a house with somebody else, you'll sometimes find out that your needs and wants don't always match up, and you're going to want to make sure that you get that taken care of what is it that he really needs, what is it that she really needs, and then what do we really want. And then here's one that I added to this a couple of years ago that was really down at the right at the bottom, put don't wants. Don't wants. Stuff that you don't want in the house. Okay? In other words, I don't want to live on a busy street. I remember purchasing my first house in Texas was in an area called Brushy Creek, and I was the first one in a subdivision that, in fact, can be the first home in a phase or first home in a subdivision can be really a good idea, because over the course of a subdivision they have a tendency to go up in price. But I bought this home, and being as smart as I am or as dumb as I am, I didn't study the traffic patterns. But I did notice this yellow strip down this. Now I was the only house on the street, but when they did the road, there was a yellow strip down the middle, and I didn't study it. And I looked at that. Later on, as they built out the subdivision, I looked how the streets goes, and it was a thoroughfare. So people, what the speed limit was 35 miles an hour. Guess what speed they're going? 45 miles an hour. Okay, so I'm like going, oh, wow. This became a problem. It wasn't so much when I was just me and my wife, but when we had our first child, and all of a sudden there's, second child, and then we had dogs that tended not obey when they're supposed to. They ended up, that busy street became an issue. And in fact, it was one of the #1 reasons why I moved out of that house, was because I didn't want to live on that busy street anymore. So some of those don't wants can really be helpful. Sometimes it's like this. I get people all the time say, I want to have a big yard. I want to have the trampoline, I want all this. And then there's other people that say, no, I don't want to have a big yard because I don't want to take care of it. So, but when you make a plan and you start going through what it is that you want and what you don't want and what it is that you need, then you're going to get together with your consultant, and if your consultant has this list, then they'll know how to form that. Okay, I need to be in the Harker Heights School District, or I need to be in Belton schools, or whatever it may be. Those are things that you bring to the next step of this phase, which is consult. We're talking about consulting with professionals. And once again, the real estate industry seems to be in a case where people think that it's more of a sales job, but it's really not. You can find the consultants out there who will sit with you and ask questions, take in your information, and then give you answers through the filter of their years and years of knowledge. That's what you're looking at. You're not looking for a salesperson. And so that's one of the things that this point of this particular seminar is, that you have the right to have your own representation when it comes to purchasing a home. Let me show you how that works. A lot of home buyers think that they can go and get the best deal and purchase a house. When a seller or a builder wants to sell the house, they will usually hire a real estate agent who will stick a sign in the yard. And the real estate agent will then well, the seller will agree to pay the real estate agent usually somewhere around a 6% commission. It's not set, it's negotiable. And the person that puts in the sign in the yard will usually get half of that. So 3% goes to the person that puts a sign in the yard and markets the property and represents the seller. And then there's all these other realtors out there with their clients. And these are called buyer's agents. Buyer's agents will then take their clients around and find them the home that fits the needs and wants list. Okay, so what happens is that 3% would go to the buyer's agent and 3% goes to the selling agent. The problem comes in is that a lot of people don't understand that, and they will go, as a buyer, go directly to the selling agent, call the sign 888-100, they'll call the sign on the yard, and then they'll be talking directly to the listing agent, and the listing agent's fiduciary responsibility by law is to get the seller the most money. And the problem also lies in that you have a 6% usually plus or minus commission that's being paid. If the listing agent doesn't have a buyer's agent involved, then the listing agent keeps the entire 6% commission. The listing agent's also obligated not to tell the buyer about the house just around the street that might be even better for their needs. So what's really important is that you are already paying for, by agreement from the seller, your representation is already paid for by the seller, but you can have the right to have your own representation, and they're, once again, are paid by agreement by the seller, and the buyer's agent's responsibility is to get you the best deal. It's the buyer's agent is to negotiate and use any means that they can to tell you how to get a better deal on the property. Oftentimes when I walk into a house, I'll be looking at protecting my buyer, first of all, by looking at the condition of the house, make sure there's no cracks in the wall and all that kind of stuff. And then if they get really interested, then the next thing I will do is they'll say, well, what do you think we can do? Do you think the seller's in distress, or do you think that we can get a better deal on it? And I say, well, let's take a look. And I happen to, sometimes we'll go into the master bedroom closets, we're looking around, I see one row of men's clothes in a family home. What does that usually tell you? Might be a divorce situation going on. Whatever knowledge I can get and find out to try to extract the best deal as a buyer's agent for my clients, I'm allowed to use that information. Listing agent cannot do that. In fact, they're not allowed to even tell you that the seller will take a lesser price or do any negotiating on your behalf. Same thing with builders. You go directly to a builder. The builders are more than willing to pay realtors the commission because we bring them 80% of the business, so they don't want to cut realtors out. But a lot of the other 20 to 30% of buyers will go directly to a home builder and buy it directly. Now they'll do a great job and build you a house probably, but I can tell you that the sellers of new homes will always have some money in their back pocket that they're not telling you about, that is negotiating money, because everybody likes to negotiate, that a buyer's agent can extract and put in your favor. So that's something that you have to realize, is that the builders will pay a buyer's agent, and they will not reduce the sales price of the house if you do not have an agent. That's another time people think that, oh, I'll just go to the builder, and because they don't have to pay a commission to this, then I'm going to get a 3% discount. No, it doesn't work that way, and at least not in this area. And the reason being is that if they did that and reduced the commission to every buyer that came in, then the realtors would not bring their buyers to that builder in fear that they're going to get cut out of the transaction. And then what would happen to the builder? They lose 80% of the business that's being brought by realtors. So, best to have your own representation, and that representation is in the form of a consultant, not a salesperson. On your needs and wants list, you also want to rank those needs. I'd say put a number of 1 to 10 on which ones are the most important. All right, think about your timing, and what about your lease? I always tell people that if you're going to be buying a home, that if you're in a lease and you're looking at buying a resale home, that you want to start your home buying process about 90 days out from when your lease is up. That gives you 30 days to find the house and 60 days to close. If you're going to buy a new construction home and you're going to start from scratch and have the builder build it for you, you want to start 9 months out in advance on your process. And why I'm saying that is that it might take you a month or two or a month to find the right subdivision or find the right home, and then you got to get your pre-qualification going, and then they've got to build the house. You know, and if we get rains or whatever, that can slow the process up. So I always tell people to say that, yeah, well, I just renewed my lease. I go, yeah, good. In a month or two, you're probably going to need to start thinking about, if you're going to buy a new one, you're going to start thinking about your lease. And also, don't ever let a lease get in the way from you to purchasing a home. There are builders and there are real estate agents that will help you, like me, step up to the plate and even buy out your lease. Okay, because we don't want you to miss the opportunity on a perfect home just because you have to be stuck in a lease contract. All right. Okay, so once you've met with a consultant, real estate broker that knows what they're doing and has your best interest in mind, you want to then apply for financing. So that's step 4, apply for financing. But having been a mortgage company owner for so many years, I can tell you that there's better ones than others, and so you have to be careful about which lending company you go with. And the best thing you can do is go with a referred lender from somebody that's had a really good experience, or from your trusted real estate professional who has a lender that they work with, that they've been working with for years. I suggest with a lender that you want to deal with somebody who's been in the business for more than 5 years, and really the longer the better, and somebody who has the time that they'll be able to talk with you. And that's another problem with lenders. I've found a lot of times they're very difficult to get on the phone at times to answer quick questions. But you definitely want to apply for financing and get that started, because when you go out to purchase a home, you're going to want to have a pre-approval letter in hand. A pre-approval letter is basically a letter that states that you can get this mortgage to buy this house. And a lot of sellers will not even look at your offer unless you have a pre-approval letter in hand. And that process is usually free to get that pre-approval letter. And what you want to search for is, you want to search for the best lender, not an interest rate. It just seems that naturally people just start looking for the lowest rate and they're going to go with that. The bottom line is the interest rates are pretty well static, or there would be only one company that would be offering loans, right? If one loan company had the best loans of all, they'd be the only one. It would be dominating the market. The other thing that I can say is you may want to stay away from the big box banks. And because this is a television broadcast, I don't want to name them, but there's only 5 of them in the the country, really, when you think about it. B of A, no. But yeah, there's the big ones. Now, I've funded loans with them, and they're fine, but a lot of times you're dealing with an 800 number, and you're not dealing with a person who will roll up their sleeves and actually show up at closing. 2 people that you're going to meet with in the mortgage side is the loan officer. It's the person that takes your information, takes all loan consultant, tells you what kind of loan would be best for you based on your needs and wants. And then the second person, well, the first person, once again, a loan officer, is his or her works usually on commission. And then the loan processor is the person that you'll be dealing with on a day-to-day basis that will actually collect all the information and gather it together and put it out there so that when your loan's ready, that all the information that they gathered, they're the ones that put it all together in a file. One thing that's changed since I've been in the business is that once you apply for a mortgage, you can get an approval through the electronic loan, they call it Loan Prospector, LP, through the electronic system within a few hours. It used to be where we used to have to package up all the information, send it to an underwriter, and then it would be several days before we would get an answer. But now they do it, you can get your approval almost automatically. 4 basic questions that you want answers to from a loan officer. Do I qualify for a loan? How much do I qualify for? How much will my mortgage payment be? And how much will it cost to buy a home? So once you get done meeting with that loan officer, you're going to get a pre-approval letter, and that's basically like having a suitcase full of money. Okay, step 5 is search for and find the property. Okay, want to be careful about, you know, the world's changed in the last 5 years from when I started this 27 years ago, started selling real estate. It's changed because people used to come to me and say, here's my needs and wants list, and then I would provide them, I would take that list and I would go look at all the listings and then come up with the homes that I felt would meet their needs. Seems today, buyers that have access to the internet in so many ways that they're coming to me with the list of homes that they want to see, and then we have to make appointments for them. Now, a lot of times those internet searches can be really good, but oftentimes you might miss some really good ones. And also, the way they do these pictures sometimes, some internet searches are better than others, and like some of them only have one picture. And you might miss that property if it only has one picture. But I guard people for using the internet too much. You know, the younger generation is so dependent on the internet and not as dependent on consultants as we were when we were growing up. And the problem with the internet is it has a lot of good information, but it doesn't have a lot of good wisdom. And wisdom is the right use of that knowledge. So we find a lot of people get partial knowledge. They've got partial knowledge when it comes to searching for a home, or information about mortgages, or information about purchasing, or how to choose a realtor. So it is good that you can get the information. You can get on your little smartphone and go around with Trulia.com and find these houses. But guess what's going to happen? Then you're going to have to want to get inside the house. And you can't get inside the house without having either calling that representative that is the listing agent who represents the seller, or calling an agent that has access to the house through our little electronic keys that will be able to get you into every house. And that's a lot first-time homebuyers don't understand. They start driving around, they start calling on different signs, trying to get in to see the house, calling all these different agents, when all they need to do is just get one agent that has the electronic key that can set up and get you in all the houses all in one afternoon. And so that's something that you have available. Same with the new home construction. Some home builders are better than others. And though some may be more inexpensive than others, there may be something that reason why they're less expensive or more expensive. So we want to make sure that you have your representative be able to tell you what's the benefits, the pros and cons between this builder and this builder, or what's the benefits and pros and cons about this neighborhood as opposed to this neighborhood. Talk a little bit about new versus resale. I like new. You know, I like new cars, I like new houses, and the difference between a new car and a new house is the new house doesn't drop in value as soon as you drive it, you know, as soon as you get the keys to it. So the new homes have some benefits to them. Some of the benefits are everything's new, everything's under a warranty. You get if you're building, you get to pick your own colors, and you get to and no one's ever lived there before. So it's got that new home smell. The problem with new that can run into is that yellow stripe syndrome I just talked to you about. You don't know how the rest, sometimes if you're buying it, what the rest of the subdivision is going to look like. You know, you can go to the previous sections of the subdivision and see how that area has been developing over the years to see. That's another good thing to do. If you're buying in a new subdivision from a builder, go look at their older homes that are 3 or 5 years old. Let's see how the neighborhood shaped up, okay? So new is good because they're all under a warranty, but resale is also good too, and it's worth exploring because resale has some things. They've usually put some stuff into it. They've done the landscaping. They maybe put the garage door opener. Maybe they put the sprinkler system in. Maybe they've spent some more money. The trees might be more mature, and so that's also a consideration. Also, you get to see who the neighbors are, you know, that's already moved in. And I just was telling Steve back there in the control booth. I just said you can't choose your neighbors. So one thing neat about going to a resale home is that if you can't stand barking dogs, we'll go in there and rattle the fence next door and see if there's any barking dogs. Of course, they could move in the next day, but okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the money process for once you find a home, then you're going to be putting in an offer on the house. Be prepared for, before we get there, before you do the offer, be prepared for some upfront expenses. If you're going to buy new, especially in this area, most builders will take $50 and VA loan, and that's it. $50, $500, it's what's called earnest money to take that house off the market. If you're buying a resale, however, you're going to put up a little bit more money up front, which goes towards your down payment, and so it's going to be usually like, oh gosh, 1%, half to 1% of the sales price. You don't have to pay any more than that until closing. If you're going VA, sometimes you don't have to put up so much because you'll actually get that money back because you can go zero total move-in. But some of the things that you're going to be doing is you're going to be getting an inspection on the property, and we'll talk about that later. There's some inspection money that you're going to have to come up. It's maybe $300. You're going to also may have to pay for the appraisal up front. So that could be another $350. So you want to be aware that there are some upfront money when you start buying a home. If you're going VA in this area, you're probably not going to have to put up a whole lot. Okay. Number 6 is negotiate the agreement. Okay. What we're talking about there is once you get really interested in the home, and maybe it's a new one or maybe it's a resale home, is that you're going to be saying, okay, well, this is it. And one of the things I do ask people is, this house fits every one of your needs and wants that we could possibly fit, because you can't fit them all. Purchasing a home is part of a compromise situation. You can't get everything that you want in a home unless you win the lottery, and even then you don't get everything that you want in a home. But one of the things that I do ask my clients is this home? There's a lot of times when we stand in a house that seems right, it's not really the one that's going to be where I want to live or where my clients want to live. I also like to point out that usually who makes the home buying decision on a home? The woman of the house usually makes if they're married, usually the wife is the one that makes that final decision on whether they're going to live there. There's maybe 5% of the cases where the man makes that decision. And why is that case? Because the lady says, mama ain't happy, ain't nobody's going to be happy. So, the ladies usually, when we walk and show a house, they'll usually run to the kitchen and then to the master bedroom and master bathroom closet. The men will usually go to the garage or the workshop and then go to the backyard. You can kind of check that out. But the bottom line is the ladies make the decision in the house. I use that in my rear view mirror. The husband's in the back and I go, okay, keep mama happy. Okay, so, but when you're ready, I say, is this home? And they say, yes. Okay, great. It's time to negotiate an agreement with the seller. The nice thing is that you as the buyer you don't ever have to deal directly with the seller. That's our job as real estate brokers. In fact, I don't even like the buyers and sellers getting together and knowing each other. It's a recipe for disaster. It does happen sometimes where they really get along fine and it's a wonderful situation, but it also ends up more times than not where somebody irritates somebody and they say, that's the last house I'm going to buy. You're the last buyer I'm going to sell my house to. If you have real estate agents, keep those things separate. So another important thing to realize is that when negotiating an agreement, sometimes it's even the real estate agent's reputation can help whether you're going to get your offer accepted or not. There are certain agents that I work with that I choose not to work with if at all possible, because I know they don't pre-qualify their clients very well, whatever the case may be, where it might hinder my seller. There's other cases where I'm calling on a property and I've got buyers in my car and we're in a multiple offer situation on a house that these people want. And because I'm an agent that's highly respected in the industry, they'll go, you know what, I think you should go with this guy's clients because he knows what he's doing, or this lady's clients because she knows what he's doing. So even the agent's reputation can affect how you're going to get that offer accepted. Okay? So we're going to negotiate an agreement. Basically, we're going to be talking about the terms and the timing, how much you're going to put down, and then what the timing is, usually 30, 45, 60 days from when you go under contract to when you're going to close. All right, the terms are who's going to pay for closing costs and who's going to cover the costs of, and a lot of times we have with zero down type programs, we will have the sellers pay some or all of the buyer's closing costs. So VA, you can go zero down and then you have the seller pay the closing costs, which are your costs to get the loan, and you're basically in for zero total move-in. Now, what they always say, well, with the seller, okay, seller wants $150,000 for the house, and the usual offer would be, say, $140,000. Well, you're going to, usually end up somewhere in between, $145,000. But let's say you wanted to get in zero and you had $4,000 in closing costs that you wanted the seller to pay. You can say, well, Mr. Seller, I'll pay you $149,000, but why don't you pay $4,000 of my closing costs? And because he's netting exactly what he wanted to net anyways, oftentimes he'll go ahead and, the seller will go ahead and take that. And that way you get all of your closing costs paid by the seller. And in essence, you're really financing it. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so once the offer is accepted, then we get that purchase agreement to a title company. The title company holds your earnest money, however little or much it may be, and that money is set aside till you're closing. The earnest money is your money that you pay up front to say that you're not just taking this home off the market for no good reason. And that's, like I said, usually anywhere from $50 to 1% of the sales price of the house. Okay? Then you're also going to, on a resale, have what we call option money deposit. And the option money deposit allows you to have the property inspected usually within the first 10 days, and allows you to back out for any reason, basically usually due to inspections, if the house does not add up. If there's problems with the house, if there's cracked foundations that you don't know, or if there's electrical problems you don't know, you're going to hire a state licensed inspector to go into the house and go through every different aspect of that house during that first 10 days. We'll talk about the inspection in a second. All right. Step 7 really is the conditions are satisfied. That contract that you sign, that purchase agreement, is 13 pages long, sometimes longer, and the whole thing is filled with conditions that need to be satisfied. Every one of those paragraphs are a condition that needs to be satisfied. And what that just means is that whatever you've agreed to do, that we all come together. And once all those agreements are made, then we can go to closing. Step 8 is the inspection. Try this. Okay, so you're going to have the option to have that property inspected, whether it's new or whether it's resale. If it's resale, the inspection is done right at the beginning of the contract, because you don't want to buy a house, put it under contract, and then find out that there's a lot of problems with the house and then own it later on. I've had very few cases where people didn't do an inspection, and it's always been a disaster because they didn't do the inspection. It always seems to be the ones that they didn't do the inspection on that has the ultimate problems. So it's one of the important things. State licensed inspector will come in, you pay for them, you hire them, and they'll spend 2 to 3 hours going through every light socket, every appliance, dishwashers, everything, roof, attic, everything, to tell you exactly what's wrong with the house. Sometimes we see as many as 3 to 30 items that are on that report. Some of them are code items that were code or were not code when the house was built that are now code now. So we have to realize that there's maybe 30 items that can be on. I've seen as many as 50 items on it. But what happens is usually it's about 10 to 15 items that you then go back to the seller and say, look, I didn't know this light socket was broken. I didn't know that this window was fogged. So maybe we need to have you guys go ahead and fix that. And that's a further negotiation that happens. Or maybe they say, you know what? Seller says, I don't want to fix it. Here's $300. Why don't you fix it after closing? So there's still, during that option period, a time for you to go back and have the seller pay for inspection repairs. On a new home, you have it done just before you do your final walkthrough. And that way, when the house is built, you'll know that the house has, you send your inspector in and they'll always find stuff, because building's building. It's not a perfect art, it's perfect science. It's kind of an art. And they'll find stuff and they will repair those things, because the builder warrants the house for the first year, and sometimes the rest of the structure of the house for 10 years. Okay, so 1 year bumper to bumper is your usual warranty on a house. 2 years behind the walls, like the mechanicals and the plumbing, and then 10 years on the structure, like the walls and the roof. So once the inspection is done and you negotiate the repairs and all the contract is finishing processing, then you go to closing. Closing is done in a title company usually, and what that is where you've sent your earnest money that's held by the title company and any other deposits. You're going to be going to your closing, and that's where you're going to sit at a closing table, and the sellers are going to hand you the keys, and you're going to sign all the loan documents. You're going to give the cashier's check, if any needed, for the closing costs and down payment. And you exchange that, and in a couple hours usually that loan funds, and now you're the owner, and that's step number 10. So number 10 is you're the homeowner. Carl, what time do you have?
About 14 minutes to 12.
Okay, all right. Well, we got 14 more points. No. All right. Okay, so that's the 10 steps to the home buying process, and the most highly encouraged part of that process is that you have your own representation, and that's what I'm here. PD can be your representative as well. We'll all work on the same team. Ann, Kano, George, Walter, all of our people on a team. So you want to make sure that you engage by phone, by Skype, person to person, whatever it may be. We're all high tech here, and let us help you get involved in the purchase process. All right, next. I'm going to cover some things that I'm just going to scan over the last section of the book, which is really really some insider secrets. First is, we talked about cash and credit being the two biggest problems with people being able to get loans. Well, VA loan satisfies that, but the credit often always ends up being a situation we have to work with. The national credit scores now for FHA and even VA has been raised to 640. The nice thing is that Texas Vet, which is if you're a Texas vet, will now not even require you to have any credit. I mean, there is no requirement to have a 640 credit score. Okay, so that's a nice thing to know, that if you are a Texas vet and you're going that route, that if you have a score even under 600, you can still get it. They don't have the same indications, same requirements. One of the things that we want to make sure that you do is don't use just myfico.com or mycreditscore.com to get your credit score. Because different credit industries use different scoring systems. And what I mean by that is a car industry has a different FICO score than the house industry. Okay, and so if you don't have any credit, then you need to establish it. That's really easy. You just go to you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Sears, and they're most likely going to give you a card. Or you can go get a secured credit card from your USAA or whoever your credit unions. That's a good way to start it, and sometimes that's a good way to help fix your credit as well. One of the things that we have to realize is that a lot of people think of these things that are going to say, I'm worried about messing my credit up if I do this. First is inquiries. Inquiries, every time you have a credit report run, that people think that that's going to lower your credit score. No, it doesn't lower your credit score. You're allowed to run credit in the same industry as many 4 or 5 times in the same 30-day period while you're, say, shopping for a loan, if you want to call it that way, as long as it's within the same industry. Where your credit score starts to drop because of inquiries is when you go apply for a credit card, apply for a car loan, go get an installment loan application, and then a mortgage, and that could start messing with your credit. The other thing is to make sure that, once again, you don't use just the myficos.coms or even those credit scoring agencies, because they're not going to always be accurate. That credit score changes every day. You can get a credit score, there's 3 scores. And the middle score is what they use to determine whether you're going to be able to get a loan or not. And those are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Those are the 3 credit bureaus. You can go to them directly, or this is the national way to get a national credit report for free, is annualcreditreport.com. That's the only one that is actually really tied in with the industry itself. The other ones are quasi. Annualcreditreport.com. And that'll get you one of your credit scores or one of your credit reports for free. The other ones you can pay a small fee and get the credit. But the easiest way to do it is get with a mortgage lender, a trusted lender, and they will run your credit because they want to earn your business, and they'll do it for free, and they'll tell you what your middle score is. And if there's issues then we need to fix, then we need to fix it. One of the things that you don't want to do is you don't want to pay off old collection accounts. A lot of times people go, I'm going to lower my, I've got these old collection accounts from 5 years ago. I'm going to pay them off because it's the right thing to do. It may be the right thing to do, but wait till you buy the house first and then go pay them off. Because what happens is when you pay off an old collection, it can show up as new bad credit and boom, your score goes down. Okay, another thing that you want to do is don't run up balances beyond 20% of your high credit limit. 19% is the number. To get optimal credit scores, keep your credit limits on those credit cards below 19%. And kind of a hideous thing that's been going on with the industry these days is they might give you a $5,000 credit limit and you might only have a $1,000 balance on it, and that's a 20%, which is pretty optimal, but then they'll, by their own gumption, lower that credit limit to $2,500, and now you're up to 40 or 50% of your credit limit, and that will reduce your score. So that sometimes can happen without you even knowing. So keep a good mix. A good mix of credit is 2 or 3 credit cards that you use sparingly. Don't use them a lot. Don't run up those balances. 1 installment, like a car loan, that's a pretty good mix. And maybe like a student loan or something like that. You don't want to have too much credit. You don't want to have too little bit of credit. So those are some really good points on the credit. Let me see. There was one more that I wanted to bring up that was really important. Don't close old good accounts. I had a Citibank card that I had since 1986. I closed it and my score dropped 40 points. Old credit cards that you've had for a long time, don't close them even though they might cost you a little annual fee. That was the only reason I closed it, was because it was costing me an annual fee. It'll drop your score. Also, disputes. Don't dispute stuff that's really not, you know, you can dispute something that's on your credit report. That is a way to help fix your credit. But if you dispute everything, they're not going to believe you. And also, if you dispute it and a dispute is still out there, like you dispute the old Sears bill that you're still disputing whether you had to pay it or not, now you're going to buy a house. If that dispute is still outstanding, now the mortgage companies won't fund the loan until the dispute is resolved. So we want to make sure we're careful with that. Okay? No credit is not good credit. Also, the mortgage companies are pretty good experts at telling you what you need to do if your credit score is not at a pretty good spot. Then you can do stuff like open up another good account and start building credit. When I first moved to Texas, everybody had a bankruptcy foreclosure or waiting on a judgment, you know, to get paid so they could buy a house. So I became a credit repair expert back then just to make a living. Next section is home loan secrets, and I'm not going to get too much into that because I kind of covered mortgages already. I'll give you a quick thing here. If you're going FHA or VA, you can pretty much pre-qualify yourself right now. And if you write this down, VA will allow you to go 42% of your gross income to qualify for the mortgage. So that's your gross income, all of your gross income on your W-2 and your housing allowance, everything together. So if you make $4,000 per month, then they'll take 42% of that, which would be just over $1,600 per month to qualify for all of your debts combined. You subtract out your other revolving or car payments from that 42%, and whatever's left over can be what's left over for a house payment. That's your maximum qualifying power. So let's say you took that, if you're $4,000 a month, 42% of that's just over $1,600. That allows you to go to your total debt load. Did I say that right? 4 times 4, 1,600? Yeah. And then you say you have a $300 car payment, Okay, 1,600 now, dropped down by 300 is now 1,300, and you have a $100 credit card that you pay every month. Now you're down to 1,200. 1,200 is what you've got left over. And at current interest rate market, right now it's between $6 and $7 per thousand. So when you divide that out, if you're at $1,200 a month, you divide that out by 6 or 7, that'll show you how much you can qualify in a mortgage payment. Basically, a $100,000 mortgage is $600 to $700 per month. 150,000, 6 to 7 would be dollars per month, to be 900. That's an incredible, to be able to buy a $150,000 house for $900 a month. That's why everybody's doing it. That's why this area is booming right now. Zero down, values of the homes are going up, values of rents are going up. I know, because I'm a landlord, I'm raising my rents, you know. Why? Because I can. Home builder secrets. This is a good one. Best deal you can get usually is on a standing inventory house that's been sitting there for a while. And what we call those homes are speculative homes. And speculative homes are homes that are built by a builder hoping that somebody like you would come along and buy it. Okay? And they're called spec or inventory. They're speculative because they don't have a buyer that has built it for them, for their taste. They're just hoping you'll come along and buy it. But as a corporation, they can't have that standing inventory for too long. They'll start discounting that house. And that's why you need a good negotiator like me to help you get the best price on that house. The longer it's been sitting on the market vacant, the lower the builder will take on that house. Okay. Another thing that you want to think about builders when you're building is that they usually will start lowering their price right when they go into a brand new subdivision. They'll usually start at low prices and start moving their prices up as they build through the subdivision. The reason is that most home buyers can't picture you got this big lot, this big plot of land, and there's nothing there. When the home builder goes in there to start building, they start building these houses, but it still doesn't look like a neighborhood. So to get people interested in buying, they'll lower the price of the original value, and as they build and it starts looking like a neighborhood, they'll start increasing those prices. And really they will be increasing the prices because of inflation and because of the gas prices. And that means equity for you. What it means is that if you bought now and it goes up in value, that means that you have just increased your equity. Usually builders all have their own home lenders, and one of the things that I really make sure of, because I know the mortgage industry, is are you getting a good deal? Just because the builder is giving you some incentives to use their mortgage company, which they always do, are you getting the best use of that money for incentives? In other words, when you walk into the builder and say, I'll buy your house, and they say, great, we'll give you $5,000 towards your closing costs if you use our lender. Okay, well that may be great, but are you going to get 4.5% because of that $5,000 they're using, or are they going to give you 5% or 5.25%? We had a case last year where they were charging our clients 5.5%, but they're saying, hey, I'll give you $5,000. I'm saying $5,000, that's nothing compared to an interest rate that's 0.5 to 0.75% higher than market over a 10-year period. That's about an $18,000 difference. So you want to make sure, most people don't understand that you got to keep those builders, lenders honest. Most of them are, some of them will play a shell game. They'll say, we'll give you all this money, but then they're making money over here on the mortgage. Okay? All right, so I'm going to close out with this, which is a little bit of advice about foreclosures, short sales, and REOs, distressed properties. And give you kind of a little situation here is there are a lot of foreclosures out there, but not nearly as much in the Central Texas region as there is in other parts of the nation. They can be a good deal, but just because they're a foreclosure does not make them a good deal. Just because they say distress sale does not make them a good deal. The problem is that that people will drive those prices up on a bidding process when they go to foreclosure auction because they think foreclosure is a great deal. And this has been going on for a long time. They can be a good deal, but they not necessarily are. The way the foreclosure process works is usually somebody gets in trouble and they can't make their payments, obviously. I mean, they had some kind of subprime loan or whatever. They usually let their credit cards go and their other debts go before they start letting their house go. But then eventually they start getting behind on that house. And that's what's called a pre-foreclosure. That's where you can actually sometimes really, if they have some equity in the house, really work with the with the home buyer and save their property. They get some of their money out and they can move on. It's called a pre-foreclosure. Not as fun to deal with a pre-foreclosure that somebody hasn't lost their house yet, because you're dealing with somebody who's usually in a distressed situation. It can be a good time to purchase, but not necessarily always the funnest time. The next thing that happens, usually they will go into what's called a short sale process, or they'll try to get their loan modified. And what we see there with the short sale process is the banks are so inundated with what we call short sales, meaning when the seller sells it, he's going to end up owing less. He's not going to have any money left over. In fact, he's going to be short to be able to make the payoff on the mortgage. So then they have to go to the mortgage company and saying, look, instead of losing this house, I want to sell this house short. And the mortgage company then is going to have to decide, oh, wow, okay, we're going to have to take a $5,000, $10,000 hit on what's called a short sale. The problem with short sales is the departments are inundated with these short sale requests. And therefore, it can take 2, 3, 4 months to get a response on the offer on a short sale. And that's just frustrating for a home buyer. You can't make life decisions based on 2, 3, 4 months for them just to give you an answer, yes or no, or maybe. So this goes on time and time again. I want to go buy a short sale. I tell them, well, you know what? We can go ahead and put that offer in on that short sale, but let's keep looking for homes. Oftentimes they get back to me on the short sale offer, and my clients have been in home for 2 months. You know, you guys get your act together. You know, they have these stack of files on their short sale desk. So I'm not really big on short sales for a first-time home buyer who's planning on moving. Okay. The next thing is the foreclosure. You hear all those real estate seminars, buy foreclosures and all that. Well, if you're going to buy them at the courthouse steps, then you have to pay cash. You can't get a loan, so you got to pay cash. So how many people are going to step up and pay cash and you have to take the property as is without inspection? So I don't think that foreclosure steps is the best place for a first-time homeowner, or even somebody who's just seeking to buy a house is always the best, because you have to pay cash and there's a lot of intricacies. What I do find is a good opportunity for home buyers is what we call REOs or HUD sales. HUD sale is a housing and urban development, or a VA vendee. And that's where HUD has taken the home back, or VA has taken the home back, and they will now sell it as an REO. An REO stands for real estate owned. And real estate owned means the bank has it, or VA has it, Fannie Mae has it. The great thing about that is that it's already gone past the foreclosure process. The bank has gone in and probably fixed it up, taking care of some of the problems. Maybe they didn't fix any of it up. And now they've got standing inventory in their REO account, but they have an REO department. They actually have a person you can talk to. They actually have some way where you can communicate, and you can offer goes back and forth, and you actually can buy the house. So I think REO is a really good opportunity of anything of the distressed properties to be able to purchase is REO. And VA vendee is a fantastic way. Right over here in Bridgewood, 6 months ago, I found a VA vendee foreclosure. It was a year old. The house was a year old. Were you with us? You were okay. We found this house that was a year old, so it was still under builder warranty. They were offering that house at $93,000. The builder was building the same house in the same neighborhood for $145,000. And I asked why aren't these GIs buying this house that's $50,000, $40,000 less than this one? And it was just simply, the answer was because they like new and they wanted to buy new. I'm saying, well, that was a move. This house would have been a $600 payment, and the other one would have been $40,000 more. Same house, same neighborhood. So there are those VA potential or FHA HUD homes that are out there that they're not all good, but some of them are a really good deal. So, okay. So I think our time is up. I think we've gone through quite a bit of a process. Let me go ahead and show you some offers. You've got the book. I'm not selling anything here. All I am doing is giving an opportunity to get in relationship. At the front of the book is my phone number and my name. I signed it. And then also I've got the certificates of completion. What this basically is a gift to you guys that you'll get $250 off as a gift certificate on the purchase of your home, off the closing costs or towards upgrades or whatever. And that's just kind of my gift for saying thank you. I also will be donating for anybody that purchases a home through any of these broadcasts that KPLE was so nice to be allowing me to do that and distribute it on YouTube, that if anybody purchases a home because of what they've seen here today, whether it's on a months from now, I will donate a portion of that for the KPLE studios. So it's all about being generous and giving back. And like I said from the very beginning, real estate's all about you. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time. Does anybody have any questions? No? Well, thank you very much. Have a good one. See you.